Evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us at 6:34 on Monday, June 2nd. This is the Development and Governmental Relations Committee. I am here with Councilors Devine, Sullivan, Anderson Burgos, Ocasio, also in the room, Councilor Jordan. Online, we have Attorney Bissonnette, and a couple people from other departments. So, that said, I guess we can entertain a motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So, item 1 is a public hearing for a special permit application for Alan Finney for the creation of the Finney Family Cemetery at 2 Finney Road. Is Mr. Finney in the building? No. Okay. So the last update I had on this item was that they were still getting soil samples and figuring out some sort of underground chamber that's required for building a cemetery plot. So they must still be in the process. So I'll entertain a motion to
Make a
table this
motion to
item.
table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jeffrey, do we already have a potential date for another meeting? I don't think so, we do.
We haven't discussed one yet, no. One other note, Tim responded and said that they're waiting for Mass DEP approval.
Okay. So since it's a public hearing, I understand we have to table it to a date certain. And that will be, do we need another June meeting? And then July, we're kind of like not really here.
Yeah, we're like.
So is it okay if we do? Yeah. I mean, we have the Tuesday, the 5th meeting, maybe that Monday, the 4th. Jeffrey, is that available or?
For August?
August 5th, I'm sorry, August 4th?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that one.
Table to August 4th.
Yes. All right, that said, this has been tabled to August 4th at 6:30 PM.
Motion to take up item number 2.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So item number 2 is also a public hearing for special permit application of Holyoke Retail LLC at 1504 Northampton Street to construct a drive-through facility as an accessory to the proposed retail bank per 7165. There it is. Do we have anyone here for that? Awesome. If you could just state your name and,
Madam Chair?
yes?
First, you'll need to have a motion to open the public hearing.
Oh,
Motion to open up the public hearing.
all in favor?
Aye.
There's a button on the side of the microphone, the other side, I think.
Make sure it's green, please.
No,
Tap on the microphone.
above.
Sorry. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. My name is Ellen Fryman. I'm an attorney with Schatz, Shorts & Fenton in Springfield, 1441 Main Street, here representing Holyoke Retail LLC for the special permit that you described. And with us this evening is the owner, Frank Colicino, and project manager, Peter LaPointe, and our engineer, Dana Steele from J.R. Russo.
Awesome.
We have previously appeared before the planning board. We got site plan approval. They also granted a special permit for multiple buildings on one property and for a temporary fence, a construction fence. We also have our stormwater permit. So we're here now, our last stop to get approval for the drive-through. And you are looking at the site plan that was approved. So if you have any questions, we can direct them to any of our team members. And we think we are making a great improvement to this intersection, this important intersection, and happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. All right, everybody can see that on their screen. We do have a communication from planning as well. Did everyone have a chance to read that?
Yeah, I read it.
Under discussion.
I had some questions.
Councilor Jordan?
Yeah, Madam Chair, could we just
Go over the location itself. Is this the Citizens Bank?
No.
No.
No, this is,
The old.
So this is
old
the
subway.
corner of Hamden and Northampton, so yeah, looks.
There's a Dollar Tree, there's,
The Dollar Tree and.
oh, I see.
right, and right now there's an ATM, Bank of America ATM that will be removed.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I see.
So you'll see that, right now, there's a lot of concrete, no, landscaping, and we're gonna really beautify that.
There's so
important
much going on over there. I think the convenience store is doing something right now, and they've got everything torn up right next door, so it's getting a little
Well,
confusing.
this is actually the location of that convenience store. It's not the old Subway.
Oh, okay.
So it's on the Hamden side coming
Oh,
up.
it's on the Hamden side.
Right.
Yeah, so it's that convenience store. What's the Dollar Tree and the old
Right.
Subway is next door to that.
So you'll be able to come in through Hamden Street and also Northampton.
Gee, I'm just really, I hate to say it, I'm really still confused.
Can you
have
put
the
the-
main plaza
Can you put the image back
where
up?
Astro Video was. Is
Right.
this
There
where
we go.
that is?
Yeah.
Yes, correct, that's what I remember, is
Oh,
Astro
okay.
Yeah,
Video.
it took me a second, yeah.
Yeah.
That's my point too, my
I
reference
see.
point.
Oh, okay.
What confused me was the fact that because Subway was closed, I assumed that that's where they were building.
Yeah. And that gas station right next door has that whole thing torn up
Yeah.
too.
Yes.
Right.
So
Then you had
it's-
across the street going on. Okay. So what exactly is going to be the change difference? If you could walk us, at least walk me through it before I vote on this, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, of course, maybe Dana wants to just go through the site plan?
Yeah, if you could give a 5-minute summary at least of the changes of where we're at and where we're going to.
Sure. Thanks, everyone. For the record, Dana Steele. I'm a professional engineer with J.R. Russo and Associates, and we prepared the site plan for this application. So it's a 2-acre site, and the existing buildings on the right, and at the corner there, Hamden Street and Northampton, is just a big open parking lot. So it's just a pavement everywhere. There's not a blade of grass on the whole site. So what we're doing is putting a building. The red rectangle in the middle is the building going in the middle of the parking lot, and putting greenery around the perimeter, adding trees, and so cleaning it up. We're keeping the same curb cuts. There's an access on Hamden Street. That's a one-way street that heads west, so down the page, and so you can pull in and you can pull out, turn left, and then the access on Northampton Street is also available, and circulation goes counterclockwise around the site. You can go. There's enough queuing space from the drive-through for cars to be able to wait for their turn at the drive-through without congesting the parking lot, and so things flow nicely. So we meet the parking requirements. We have a few, just a few extra spaces. 71 required. We have 76 spaces, and so. We're putting in new storm drainage, so it's going to be a real improvement, I think, in a lot of ways, aesthetically, environmentally, and it's really going to, I think, fit in well here. How's that?
Counselor Jordan?
Yeah, thank you. What's the plan for the building? What do you have a proposed tenant for it?
Citizens Bank.
Oh, Citizens Bank. Even though they have a brand new Citizens Bank right across the street.
It's not Citizen, it's not
Oh, I'm
Citizen.
sorry.
Florence, yeah.
Florence Bank, sorry.
Lawrence Bank. Okay, so that's new to Holyoke. Well, welcome to Holyoke
Yeah.
then. Okay, I got it. All right. And now there's 2 stores that are directly opposite. You have the convenience store, and then I think it's maybe a cigar shop or something. That'll all be staying. And there's sufficient parking for them. And those 2 owners are supportive of your application? Okay. Thank you.
I just
Counselor Devine?
think it's great too, when I look at that picture and see all the greenery that we don't have there now. I like that.
Yeah. Any idea on the added value? Has a number been placed on it, like what the new added value to the property would be from we always like taxes and we always like economic
That's
development.
my questions, Kevin.
Oh, sorry, Juan, sorry. But just be kind of curious as to, the added value to that important lot and that important business that you have there for us. If you could share that with us, we'd be interested. I'm not the assessor's office either, by
I'm
the way.
not sure what you mean by added value, but the
Well,
added,
that you're
There's
putting a
nothing
building-
there right now.
yeah, the added value will be it'll be a nicer looking,
No, not aesthetically. I'm talking financially. Like, if the lot was X and now what will this add to the property's?
taxes. I don't know.
Okay.
It's something that the assessor and us will get together at some point, and he's usually very aggressive. That I can tell you. But there'll be additional property taxes there.
Okay, thank you.
All set, Counselor Jordan?
All set, thank you.
Counselor Anderson Burgos?
So I won't repeat the questions that were already asked because that's what I was going to ask. But I will say, growing up in Holyoke, that space I've always thought of as just this huge lot, a waste of space. So for a business, any business at this point, to come and improve not just the lot, but to come onto the tax base, it's a plus for the city. So thank you.
And bear in mind, we also developed the site across the street.
I know.
Where the Citizens Bank is.
Yeah.
And that was a non-tax producing parcel for many, many years. And I can tell you that now it does pay taxes, pretty significant because we just got the tax bill. But it was, but it looks nice.
Yeah.
And aesthetically, I think it changes the area. In this particular site, it adds landscaping to a site that's just totally paved. And the building will be an attractive building, and the tenant cares about the local community. And not only will you get an aesthetically nice looking site, but you'll get a tenant who will participate in nonprofits, who will contribute to the local community and try to help make it grow.
So I want to personally thank you because the last time we saw each other many years ago, before Lynch went down, I did ask. I said, please give the new building some kind of symbol or something that's recognizable when the new building goes up. That is recognizable that it was from Lynch, and you actually did that. That's that. It's like Roman or Greek, like kind of architecture. So thank you for that.
Any other questions from the committee? I don't see anyone online. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak on this? So we've all looked at the planning board notes. I assume that you have all received these as well. It sounds like you're adhering to all the requests from building and planning, so I will support this. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Yep.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Motion to approve the special permit application.
Second.
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so this will come up tomorrow at City Council, and hopefully people will vote to approve this.
That'd be great. Now, are we presenting tomorrow at the council
No.
meeting?
No?
No, so it's just you recommend to the council
Our findings.
what's your findings?
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Planning set any conditions or anything?
There were no additional conditions set by planning. The conditions they set were based on like the driveway, the drive-through size and curb cutting, some ADA standards.
Nothing we needed to add.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's a bank, so it's not like they're gonna be partying at midnight.
You never know.
Never know.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good luck. Take care now.
All right.
I have, Brenna, 1 second.
Well, Mr.
Not gonna be for 10 minutes.
Okay, well, the next item is, I believe, for earmark funding. Marco is here from the architectural firm, so
Motion to take up item, is that number 3 or number 4?
that's 3. I wasn't sure if we wanted to take those up together, 3 and 4.
So motion to package and take up items 3 and 4?
Second?
Package?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, hello. Come on in. So item 3 for earmark funding, order that the councilors review and approve attached updates to city council chambers.
Have a seat.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I have seen.
And then item 4, Councilor Devine ordered that the
for
historical
us?
commission be invited to the DGR meeting on June 2nd to to determine whether any demolition to be done in the future in the city council chambers are not against historical norms.
We have a letter that Jeffrey gave us tonight from Joseph.
Okay.
Oh,
From Joseph. Thank you. So, oh, this is not it. Where's the letter from?
here, you can look at mine.
Oh, thank you. So. No.
No,
It's
no,
perfect.
that's from he's on the Historical Commission,
Yeah.
and he couldn't be here tonight.
So there's a statement from them. So, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your time. I know you've been working on this for a while. Basically, the last time we met, you had a few different options for us, and they were looked at and none were approved. So I'm hoping tonight we can get some consensus and get everybody on the same page and agreement so that we can send this to City Council for approval, so that the funding we have available can be used to actually get this work done. So please, can you tell us about your new floor plans or your new designs?
So the packet that you have there has
I'm sorry. And Jeffrey, can you pull these up as well, please?
Turn your microphone on, make sure that green light doesn't button there.
Is that, oh, that was easy enough. Can everybody, is that okay?
Yes.
So, not knowing exactly how much or how little you would want to see tonight, I did include when we met in last year, about a year ago, I had presented these 4 plans. It's the stapled set there, and so this is an older document, but it does explain each of the individual plans. The first one being existing, and then there were 2 plans that maintained this public rail here, and then there were 2 plans that put up a new public rail just straight across, eliminating this. All 4 of these plans had originally eliminated the raised platforms here.
Right.
I can very quickly, within about a minute or so, go over the history of the project and how we ended out there.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
So let's see, back in August of 2023, Architecture AEL, received a $20,000 purchase order for design services. We worked with Sean Sheedy, who was then with DPW, on the program for the scope of work. Actually, ma'am, I think this is what you want. I'll take this one back. So Sean had given me a program. Among the items was to remove the raised platforms. I took that at his word. Let's see. We determined that we would work closely with historical consultant Brian Lever of Epsilon, and he would develop the Mass Historic Commission project notification form. As you may or may not know, City Hall has a preservation restriction, which means that unless something is very minor in nature, you have to get approval to do work. So Epsilon made 2 important determinations: that the raised president secretary platform was not original and could be removed. That was his thinking. Just to be more specific, he said a close examination of the woodwork at the raised platform versus the surrounding trim in the room overall, you can see it was installed later. It is not the same wood or stain varnish used in the room overall. Based on the grain pattern and staining, I would assume it was a 1950s or thereabouts addition. So we're talking about these 2 raised platforms. The reason we did 2 versions with and 2 without the public rail is that he wasn't so sure how the Mass Historic Commission would rule on that. So he had said, to be safe, why don't we develop 2 layouts, and then we could select or propose the one that we liked and then have a backup should something go wrong. my understanding and reviews with Sean were that, you know, he there was one in particular that he liked, but you know, we had, at that time, I think his preferences were not with the raised platforms and not with the public rail.
Right.
Chairperson Givner, when we met, you had asked me to look at an alternative layout, just really different from all the others. I did not include it. I have a copy of it here, but it's taken this whole, it's taken this whole room and turning it
flipping it
90
that way.
degrees so,
Yeah.
you know, the city council would face this direction. I did a layout so you could look at it, but we determined that it was too tight and the likelihood that it would work was not great.
Right.
Never mind the fact that these doors have been used as entrance doors for 150 years, and
Right.
that door would become the main. It just seemed like it was turned around a little bit.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying there was an accessibility issue with that.
That's
other-
right, because some of the
yeah.
clearances were very tight, and I wasn't sure that we could, you know, implement that layout. Now, what I did do is, on the loose piece of paper, and ma'am, I think I really might have taken your loose piece. Do you have a loose one that's labeled, it should have a number SK 1.1 in the lower right-hand corner? That is it. So you do have a copy of it. Oh, pardon me again. So the layout shown on SK 1.1 that you see here, it reflects the most recent comments that we had. And those were to maintain the public rail, but you know, we continued to show a layout that did not maintain the raised platform. And that's sort of where we stand now. I think there was some talk, some discussion about the maybe counselors not agreeing with removing it, and we're okay. We go off the comments that our historic consultant provided us with, and on the direction that, well, at this point it would be you or Sean Sheedy initially had. We're happy to do the project however we lay it out. Having approval from the Mass Historic Commission is a given. We need that to do the work. And if you want to maintain the platform and maintain the rail, I'll be honest, there's not a lot of room left to
Right.
do a layout, and we'd end up with something very similar to what we have, which is what this layout on SK 1.1 shows. It basically reduces the footprint of these two raised platforms and pushes them back a bit.
Right, and it brings the auditor in, it puts the clerk, president, and an administrative assistant next to each other on the same level.
That's correct.
Yeah. And
And
those
it
are all-
also puts all counselors, or at least the 10 counselors that we have now, within direct eyesight
13,
of,
actually.
I'm sorry?
13 counselors.
Oh, well then, this layout is only made for 10.
Well, it's so there's 12 and the 13th is the president, so it's right.
13th of
So
president.
Yeah.
it's 12, but 13.
This has enough seating.
Okay. But it does accommodate or accomplish, one of the criteria that we had discussed, which was making sure that no counselors were sitting behind anybody. And in
Right.
this case, I do believe the last seats on each of these arcs is kind of pushed back a bit.
Right.
So
No,
we ended out here through a series of developments, and I'm happy to discuss whatever you have
Yeah,
to,
absolutely.
to say. And
well, and I would like to just mention for anyone who didn't go to the previous meetings where these were, other designs were submitted, none were approved, they were received basically like a communication, and then this kind of died in after that. And so, taking the notes from the meetings we had, I did forward them to Marco, and he came up with some ideas, putting in the the input. What I was mostly hearing loud and clear is, we want this railing, and we want to keep this kind of same. We want the same room, but we want a facelift. So, when I was back in touch with him, I basically said, "Hey, we want the same room with a facelift, and we don't want to get rid of the railing." I didn't know the podium was an issue at a time because I had never been brought up before. The podium, any kind of seating area to include the president, the clerk, and the administrative assistant was specifically requested because they all work together during the meetings. And then
Who requested that?
people at the meeting. So like the current president, the current president mentioned that it'd be nice. And I mean, it's not like there's not room now. It could be reconfigured if that's like the sticking point of these designs. But they wanted the clerk, the president, and the secretary next to each other because they work together during the entire city council meetings. And it was important to bring the auditor's desk inside the chamber so they can actually be a part of the meetings and work a little more closely and still, of course, keep this meeting, some kind of meeting table. So if you look at this new design, it's basically the same with an auditor desk. And I mean, yeah, we kept the railing because those were the two sticklers that kept coming up over and over again. When in the beginning, I thought the most important thing was the murals, but apparently the railing and the podium were like really high on people's lists. So, questions? I know Councilor Anderson Burgos, you had something.
My thought is, wherever we go with, I just want to make sure my back is not turned to the constituents. Like it's ever since I got elected.
I didn't hear you because your hands are,
So
okay, thank you.
my main concern is my back, our backs should not be facing the constituents when they're before us. That's I've had that issue ever since I got elected. I just found that's the way I was raised. It's disrespectful to have your back turned when people are talking to you. So as an elected official, I truly feel that we need to face our constituents when they're speaking. That was it. That's the point I wanted to make. So whichever one we go with, that's what I really want to focus on.
Yeah, that,
Sorry, Councilor Devine?
SK 1.2 does that one.
Yeah.
Okay, and my feeling, if we go to SK 1.1, personally, I like the raised podiums because you've got the president up there, and down here, I don't know if anybody's ever been here on an election night. You might have been here.
Oh, yeah.
How busy that clerk's position is there. They use the copier. The police come in with the bags from each precinct. Those are opened up. They're put up there. There's a little card that has to be put in there. So that's why to have the clerk's stand the same level as this table, I don't think works because of everything that gets done on election night. If you lower, just my opinion, if you lower the president, you could put the auditor there next to the president, but how often do we have the auditor in here?
That's why the clerk's next to the president in the drawings.
But again, I'm trying to tell you, that table that the clerk uses now on election day is busy.
But
It's extremely.
is the auditor here on election night?
No.
So we can use the auditor's desk for the same purpose because it would be
Never mind.
kind of the same
I'm just
setup.
trying to tell you,
Yeah.
if you come here on an election night, the clerk's podium right there is busy.
Okay.
So that's just my opinion. Do what you want to do.
I think that's reasonable. So the clerk's desk would have to be at least, or the auditor's desk would at least have to be size big enough for the clerk to use for election night and ideally slightly raised.
I don't know why the auditor's even involved in this, only because sometimes she sits over there. Sometimes. She's not here every meeting,
No.
right? And if you put her there, where Brenna is, you're gonna have to move the copier. But if you put her up where Tessa is that getting in Tessa's way? Because you know, I got a picture of Tessa, and she uses that space to her left. So again, I don't know that the auditor needs her own desk.
I mean, so I hear that and I appreciate that. I think we're thinking a little too narrowly about the space. The idea is that there's always enough space to do everything all the time, and the furniture would be ideally movable, so it'll be new furniture, the room would get a facelift, and if the auditor's not here, then that desk would not be in use, just like this desk sits here all the time when we don't have our subcommittee meetings, and then when we're not having a subcommittee meeting, it has all of our orders to sign on it. So I think that's valid. Like the clerk needs the space that she needs for election night, and so we have to keep that in consideration. Councilor Jordan?
Yeah, thank you. So the first thing I'd like to piggyback on what Councilor Devine was saying. I really feel that we should keep the raised clerk stand and the raised president stand. I think I like it where, you know, we have the president, she's got the room to the left to do her paperwork, and then the administrative assistant is to her right. So I think that kind of works. And then here we have the clerk has a large desk, but if the auditor who comes to maybe, I don't know, 1 in 10 meetings, maybe, she or he could be here. And by the way, we don't even know if we're going to have an auditor anymore, right? I mean, we have a proposal in committee to eliminate the job and make it the director of internal audit and have a comptroller. So who knows if one
Yeah.
of those are even going to be here anyway. Maybe it'll be the CAFO's desk. I don't know. We still have that to be decided. But the other thing I was going to have you consider is a desk, like a nice desk in each of these two wings, sort of like corners here. I was kind of hoping if there's nothing we can do with the HVAC, like my main thing in the room that I think we need is better AV equipment, better electrical.
Yeah.
So on the lighting. I mean, it's not horrible, but like we've got a lot of historical lighting in here that's not used anymore, but maybe it's so old that it's actually got historical significance to it. I don't know. Sound.
If you look at, and I can't find it right here, these are all the floor plan notes, but in the original packet, there were notes about things that would be upgraded in this room, and it includes things like that.
Yeah,
Ideally,
and I did see that.
Ideally, we wouldn't have things, even screens rolling around. This all
Right.
takes up space we don't need to take up,
Exactly.
So we don't want wires hanging around. We're all tripping over wires. Somebody, I'd like to plug
Exactly.
in my laptop sometimes. So all that stuff I think was really important too as part of this facelift.
Yep.
But the thing where we can't seem to figure out where to agree is the configuration of the furniture. So, but the other things are all a part of this estimate, so they will be paid attention to. But I feel like that's almost the easy stuff in comparison because everybody feels differently about the layout. And so,
Right.
I think if the podium is important and this railing is important, then those need to stay. So this furniture takes up a lot of space and it doesn't leave more space for the public. And so I think there's like that one argument, and I feel the same as Juan. I don't like us with our back facing the public, and I think there should be more seating for the public. I think a space should be welcoming to the public because we're here to serve the public. So that's just my take on it. But I mean, it's going to be here for however long, and I can see the importance of keeping kind of the original feel and layout of the chamber. So, any other?
Well, I'm not done.
Comments,
I only
questions?
made
Okay,
one
Councilor
of my
Jordan?
few comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the other observations I wanted to make was we used to have historic pews here, and I'd like to know, if we could get some of those back, maybe we expand on those. Where we have, instead of these individual seats that sort of came in as a result of COVID, I would like to see the actual pews go back in here, which would afford you a lot more seating than we had before. In fact, I'll bet you could, and Marco, I'm sure, could take a look at what we have in the hallway and replicate that.
They're all over the,
Agreed, but maybe we can have more if we don't have enough. I don't know if we have all of the original ones we had, but I know we had at least 3 rows on each side, and it went the full length, and it seated a lot of people. Now we have a fraction of the seating that we used to have. And I like the idea of the suggestion to have a podium here with maybe a nice desk over there. And if whoever the special guest is, maybe one meeting it's the law department, maybe it's the auditor, we could even make that double wide for them, or the clerk could accommodate another person here. So I think those versus the layout per se, agreed. It's pretty much this desk in particular and Juan's desk, our 2 desks, as to how we do that. I'd have to give that some additional thought, but the room is what the room is, size-wise, right? And normally for big meetings, we've always held them upstairs in the auditorium when we had major stuff. But I would encourage, I kind of, sentimental value for these desks, but
These desks are not staying.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. By the way, if you have an auction, let's have these auctioned. I will buy one because I can have this and pretend I'm still a counselor someday when I'm at home. Anyways, yeah, even if we get new desks, that's fine, and new chairs and all of that. I mean,
Well, the idea is the furniture would be new and it would be
Sure.
movable, so that we can actually use the space
sure,
as
sure.
needed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like what I was thinking as well.
Counselor Anderson Burgos.
Sorry, I know. It's my first day. So, so I was thinking like, right, if we, I mean, I know now I know we're changing the desk. So I guess that blows that out of the water, but reverse this, the way it curves out, it should curve over here, curving out this way. So that way this is over here. You see what I'm saying? Like it curves with the rest of the body going out this way, so it's straightened out, and now no one's back is turned.
So you just change the layout.
Right, the way this is,
So there's
the
sketch.
curve is over here.
There's sketch 3 that looks like you're describing, but it leaves less room for the public. And then there's also sketch 2 that leaves more room for the public, but is also similar in that it's facing forward. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
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 That requires new furniture and no podium. Yeah.
Kevin, there's
Just saying.
shoes all over the place. Plenty of
Okay, good. All right.
Counselor Giordano, are you all set for now?
What was there was one other point, and you come back to me.
Okay. Counselor Bacon?
Thank you. So, I know I'm not one of the lifers, but I like the configuration of the room, and I like the raised area, and even though the wood isn't original, it appears to me to be solid wood, whereas most construction today is not. And if we were to try to reconstruct these today, they would cost a small fortune. So I hate the idea of destroying them. And to me, they were designed, although they're not original, they were designed to keep the feel of all the original woodwork. So I guess at heart, I'm a fan, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I don't see those parts being broken. They could be reconfigured if you want somebody to sit somewhere differently, or maybe somebody to sit with the clerk if they're coming in instead of sitting outside the rail. But I think we could make those work for whatever we needed to do with the people. And we have had big meetings upstairs, because no matter how many benches or chairs we put in here, when you've got 100 people, there's been like
Yeah.
two main issues. The cats were the ones that I remembered the most. There were never more people in this city hall than over the cat issue, in my experience. And so it wouldn't really have mattered what we did here in terms of that. And I guess the only other point I would make is so many people are using technology now to come to our meetings. They can see all of us through the Zoom if they don't want to come in person. And we're actually seeing more and more people do that are reporting to meetings as well as wanting to watch the meetings or be able to chime in. Because then they don't have to drive, they don't have to worry about parking. So it almost seems like the need for physical space is decreasing rather than it's increasing, it seems. So but I agree with the back to the people thing.
Yeah,
That I've never liked either. It just feels weird.
yeah, agreed.
But could we not just go out wider with these desks? And
So,
Not
could
with
the
those
desk-
desks.
not with these desks.
Could the desks
The new desk.
even be,
With
I
the
mean,
new desk.
we don't really
Well,
need
how do you feel about sketch 2?
big desks.
Sketch 1.2?
1.2?
Oh, straight across this one.
Yeah,
Oh,
but there would be a smaller desk. I'm gonna say that right now.
that's fine with me. I don't think we need
It's
big
not like we're
desks.
storing things in
We
our
have
desks.
no, no, no.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
'cause
We have a
these are-
locker.
Yeah.
I'm fine with a smaller desk with more visibility. Totally.
So it looks like sketch 1.2 keeps the podium, keeps the clerk's desk, even if in the drawing it may be different furniture. I'm sure we can work on making sure that this stuff stays.
Upstairs.
So I want to make sure I understand, because this SK 1.2 sketch eliminates the podium.
Right.
Saying keep the podium and just line up the 6, 12 chairs, 6 on each
I think,
side.
I mean, from just in this room, and I mean, this is like half the city council, nobody wants to get rid of the podium.
Yeah, no, and that's
So-
fine. I just need to understand.
Yeah, so
The
I feel like
reason-
that sketch would accommodate it, but I'm not sure because it looks like some of this furniture might not be the same size as that furniture.
So just to explain, because I know it's nice and easy to say, oh yeah, the welcoming arms, everybody faces forward. You just won't be able to fit the curve in or be able to walk behind the desks. And that's why, we tried to, that was one of the suggestions, or to try to do a layout that did face the audience, but these were the closest that we could come. The curved arms, there's just not enough room. Again, I'll say that this layout here that we did previously, it kind of gives you an idea of what kind of curve you might need to
To really
accomplish that.
accommodate everyone.
And that
It
doesn't.
does take up a lot more.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's one of the negative parts of the sketch SK 1.2. You can see counselors 6 and 7 don't have a lot of room
Right.
behind them.
So they're
And-
like right up to abutting this corner almost.
or they push back this way, and then they're behind the secretary and president.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Oh, sure, Councilor Bacon?
So how much farther is desk 7 from the rail than where Counselor Jordan and you are sitting right now?
Well, this is about 3 feet, maybe a little bit more, 42 inches or less.
Yeah.
And my sketch right here is, it's more like 24 inches. If you look at the closest corner to it's quite close. Almost to the point where, it's doable, but you're gonna end
Yeah,
up
'cause
moving it. This person's gonna move their desk over a little bit.
But if we did move down so that desk 12, say, was halfway to the podium, they're still visible. They're not blocked from the public if you're down that way more.
Plus, if you took 6 inches off all these.
And make them smaller.
Bingo. That's a question I wanted to ask.
Are you all set, Councilor
Thank you.
Bacon? Yeah. Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, well, once again, Counselor Jordan beat me to it, but Marco, what, the size of our current desks, what are those?
These are, I didn't put it here, but I think they're 24 by 36. They're 3 feet wide. I know that for certain.
By 24 by, yeah. So if we're getting new desks, right, we could order 30-inch desks instead of 36-inch desks. That would allow 3 feet more clearance
Yes.
in the length, and that takes care of this whole discussion, right?
That helps.
So, Councilor Devine?
Just real quick, I definitely like the idea of being able to see the people. And I'm looking at SK 1.3, and you have.
Microphone.
12
Your microphone, Councilor Devine.
SK 1.3, if you take the clerk out of there and put her down below where she is right now, all those desks would still be facing the people this way. But does that straight railing, can you do the curved railing on SK 1.3?
No, ma'am.
No, okay,
No, it would probably
'Cause it hits
probably
up at
lose
the
4
window.
chairs,
Yeah.
4 desks.
right, okay, thank you.
Councilor Bacon?
Just to be sure I'm on the right page here. If we did 1.2 with the 30-inch desks, that could work? Keeping the podium and keeping the clerk's desk as it is.
So it, let's see, 6 times 6, you'd be able to shorten that row by about 3 feet on each side. But with the existing podium, I believe that counselors 1, 2, 11, and 12 would be kind of looking sideways at probably where the higher podium steps up is approximately where I believe they would be. Oh, pardon me.
Well, wouldn't they be looking over the clerk like they are now?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be the same?
Yep, excuse me.
Yeah.
Right.
So why don't I do a layout that
Those two
pushes-
desks there used to be on each side
That's right.
before.
There used to be 15.
Because there was 15 of us in the room,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, I can certainly, first of all, I want to say that initially, for about a year, I was only working with one person who kind of just dictated what they.
Oh.
Right.
I tried.
Simple then.
So I don't want to say that we won't do other investigation, and I didn't even go over the other improvements, the new lighting, potentially acoustical, the renovating the murals. I mean, all that we would do no matter which option.
We're for that,
did.
yeah.
We're all unanimous on that.
Yep.
So what I could do is take option, excuse me, SK 1.2, and I can take that straight out and just with the original platform or podium, let's call it, and with straight, straight counselors' tables on either side. And I can see I can show just so everyone can see. That's why this version here is in color, because I could tell it was questionable. So I didn't proceed and make that as presentable as the others, because to
Yeah,
me
it wasn't
it had a
realistic.
fatal flaw. I can do this option 1.2 and push put the original podium in, and push. Also make the counselors' desks 30 inches, 36 inches wide. And I can even see if I can get some kind of arc, just so you could see what happens. I know
Okay.
there's enough about that where I could.
Might pick up some more there.
And so
That's a good idea.
knowing that we do have a break in July, right? And our next city council meeting is the 17th. Or sorry, the next council meeting after tomorrow is the 17th.
Yep.
I'm wondering, because this is kind of, we're finally having this discussion, even though we should have had this discussion already. And I appreciate everybody taking part, but I really like to see something move forward. And if we can have a consensus on one of these designs, even with some corrections, do we think it's possible to get a new drawing with the new size desk and be able to vote on that as a full council on the 17th before the break?
I think so, Madam Chair, if I
Yeah.
may, because these are going to be movable desks too.
Right.
So if you have to tweak a little bit
Yeah.
here, like maybe the one at the end is a little curved, if you need like an extra 6 inches over here, that's also a possibility too. There's,
Because I hate to ask this gentleman to draw more drawings
By all means.
if we're not gonna really
We're real close,
take some
yeah.
action on it. Counselor Devine?
I do like that 1.2, the way it is, and smaller desk, and like you said, we can actually move them. And this way we are facing the public. So I would go with the SK 1.2 with the smaller desk.
All right.
yes, that would all stay the same, just the different.
Yeah, so
Okay, just wanted,
so to be clear, what we're talking about is the sketch 1.2 from the floor plans. It's option B from the original packet, not the addition that we received today. And we want to keep this railing and the original podiums, both the president and the clerk podium.
okay.
And everything else would get a facelift, technically.
Exactly.
Okay.
And just for clarity, am I keeping the clerk and the meeting table, which this one is not the same size as the one on my drawing here, but
So I'm understanding that we'd like to keep both of these raised platforms.
So, I just want to make sure
they're kind of
president is
one
on
unit,
the
right?
uppermost podium, the secretary is on the lower.
Clerk, AKA clerk.
No, secretary is over next.
Is with
to
the
clerk
president.
right. Then the clerk
Left
is
facing,
President's
if you're
right.
facing, it's on.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, president's right.
Administrator, assistant.
Yeah,
And then.
The clerk
lower
is in
podium
front,
is
yeah.
the-
City clerk.
Okay. And so are we saying that we would just have this meeting table then?
We would still need a meeting table, correct? For these lovely meetings.
Like that.
I've met at that table before too. So I'll have to, I'll come back another day and measure. I don't have a tape measure with me unless somebody has one handy, but
We have our phones.
if we're going to use that table, I'm looking at, I guess I'll go back to option 2.
We don't have to use that table,
yeah,
right?
this can be smaller.
Yeah,
We just need a table here.
a table.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be that table.
The things that we need to stay are that railing and this double tiered podium.
Yeah, that could,
We're very attached to these items. That one and that one.
that could go.
That could use a little bit of facelift though.
Okay.
Some super glue.
So, Madam Chair, I'll try this week even.
That would be
to
awesome.
At least give you a sketch. It probably won't be the full 9 yards.
No, yeah.
Everything, but I'll pass it along for comment.
Yeah, and I'll get it out to everyone so we can all look at it and hopefully we're in agreement and can
Okay.
send it to everyone for a vote. Woohoo!
Then when would all this start?
I mean, I originally
Summer?
thought it would start in the fall, but that's when I thought we would have voted on this in the spring. So I'm not sure. Do you know how long it would take to start this project?
So I don't at the moment. I would like to understand what the implications are for, there was ventilation, there's lighting, there's a fair amount of consultant work that needs to happen. We would do the architectural layout and then sort of synchronize with everybody else. I can get back to you with a date as soon as I can.
That would be really nice, yeah, if you have like an estimate of when the work could start. Because we would need to meet somewhere else during that time. And it sounds like it would be significant time.
Might be a good idea down the road too, to have some available, even if they're collapsible, but like desks for the counselors up in the auditorium. So if we have large meetings, or maybe these, there you go. And
Temporary council chambers upstairs.
Exactly, yeah. You might need it for a while
That's
while
true.
they're doing all the work.
Well, that'll be fun.
Kevin was there, Mark Joyce used to sit over there, and that whole front.
Oh, you remember when it just collapsed in? Yeah. I think it's that on that one in the back. I think it's still broken. Yeah, you're right. That was funny.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you
I really
all.
appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from the committee or anyone? I'd entertain a motion to. No. I would like to entertain a motion that we move forward with sketch 1.2 from Architecture EL. And we are going to wait and receive updated sketches with the new desk sizes for the chambers.
So moved.
All in favor, sorry?
Can I
Bacon?
just say,
Yes.
because this took out the podiums, the rails.
Right, so so the motion would be that we get new sketches that include the double tiered podium and smaller desks for the chambers, but in this layout. Sound right?
Good.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Woohoo!
Madam Chairman, just Kevin Brown, office gonna come in right.
Oh, good.
All right. Okay, well, let's get rid of, not get rid of, but let's do, item 4 was a part of this, so let's do that real quick. Is that what you want to do? Okay. Do I hear a second? All in favor? Aye. So item 4, which is that the Historical Commission be invited to DGR meeting on the 2nd to determine whether any demolitions to be done in the future in the city council chambers are not against historical norms. Yeah, I don't know. That's given leave to withdraw. All right. Motion to,
Take up item number 5.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Item number 5 is ordered, oh, sorry. Yeah, item number 5 is ordered that the city clerk meet with the city council to discuss potential streamlining of poll locations in wards 1, 2, and 5, as we've already done in wards 3, 4, 6, and 7. All of these other wards seem to function fine with the one polling location, and it would be a potential cost savings and less administrative burden to use the location per ward method. Awesome. And since this is your orders, Counselor Jordan and or Vacan, would you like to start? Counselor Jordan?
Yeah, just to start off, thank you, Madam Chair, for taking this up. And also thank you to our city clerk, who's been really helpful in thinking this through and has I think, some really good recommendations for you for tonight. And she did send a memo earlier today, so we thank Brenna for her work. As you know, 4 of our 7 wards already have one polling location, and this would make it consistent with the other 3 wards. So that I think what you're likely to hear from the clerk is that the recommendation would be to have one polling location here at City Hall. Currently, this is the 1B location, and to move 1A and 1B together here at City Hall. And that 2A would move to Falsetti Towers to be with 2B, and in Ward 5 to have the Donahue School 5B move to where 5A is at McMahon School. So obviously there's some nice financial savings. There's also logistical for the city clerk and the people that run the elections. And our recommendation, I think Councilor Vacan has a proposal is that some of the savings we can use to enhance some of the salaries of the people working at the polls. So we could use some of that money to give them a little bit of a pay bump for the people that, work at the elections, if that's possible. But most of it, there'll be a big savings. Obviously, that many less police, that much less storage, that less moving around. It's going to be just, I think, a lot logistically easier. And, we've been doing it for years and years and years at these other ones, so it'll work. I think you're also likely to hear from the clerk when she speaks in a moment, if she's available, is I think there was a request to move Ward 4 from St. Paul's to the YMCA. I think the city's being asked to move that polling location. Keep it together, yeah, but move it from St. Paul's over to the Y. So Brenna knows way more about that than I do, but I think you're going to see that in her memo. So I'll defer to her on that part. I don't know, Linda, did you want to add anything?
No?
Oh, go ahead.
Well, so I'm interested to hear from Brenda, but I would say that as it relates to Ward 5, since Councilor Jordan covered everything else, she seems to me to have a good recommendation there relative to, and I would tend to agree with her.
Okay. Thank you, counselors. Counselor Devine, did you have a question?
To go along with Kevin on the expenses, I'm going to assume that only 1 police officer is needed now.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
So big
And
cost
I did
savings.
file the order for the workers if
Oh, right.
this all goes through.
Right.
So we'll see what everybody wants to do.
Thank you. Counselor Anderson Burgos?
Yeah, I'm all for saving money, obviously. My only concern is specifically, I think in Ward 1 and probably even a portion of Ward 2, some of the residents that live in these wards, it's already difficult to get them to polling locations. And my concern is the lower turnout when it comes to voting, especially when those that rely on it being closer, if it's further, it would lead them to just not go out and vote. That's my only concern, just because I know a lot of the people in that ward don't have like vehicles or whatever. That's the concern I have.
Yep, Counselor Bacon?
Thanks. And I think one way that we could approach this would be if we endorse this approach, we can always say that we'll see how it works in November. And if we get a lot of pushback, if there's issues that we haven't anticipated, we could always go back. I mean, we're kind of trying to make it be equal throughout the cities in how we're approaching it, but there might be exceptional situations where we should do something different. So I think we'd want to keep an open mind with that, because I have a similar concern with Ward 5 a little bit,
Yeah.
too. So, everything's a work in progress, and I think we'd want to be mindful of that.
Thank you, Counselor Bacon. So, we have our city clerk, Brenna Murphy, online. So would you mind speaking to this a bit, Brenna?
Sure. So when I started logging on, I got kind of the end of Counselor Jordan speaking. So I don't know if I missed like any specific questions or not, but I agree with a lot of the points that I've heard. Specifically, we will only need one police officer, so that would cut, a few police officers down, saving money there. The other thing is, right now, we do run 2 wardens in the double precincts, but there's definitely elections where we wouldn't need 2 wardens. Like if it was a presidential election, I would want 2 wardens there. But on some of our slower municipal preliminary elections, we certainly could go down to 1 warden and just have a clerk in each polling precinct, along with obviously the poll checkers, but we could go down to just 1 warden as well. That's allowed by law. So, and I do definitely hear the concerns about, certain residents it not being as convenient to others. That's definitely a concern of mine as well, because certainly making voting harder for our residents is not the path that I want to take either. But Councilor Bacon's correct. This could be a temporary change, and we could call it a temporary change and then decide after how smoothly it goes in November. If we switch back to the way we had it, maybe just like 1 or 2 wards will need to be switched back, and maybe it will work in just in Ward 5 or just in Ward 2. So it definitely, I agree, is a work in progress, and I think that you really won't be able to tell how it will work until it's done. The last one we switched was Ward 3. Most of you probably remember we were right in the old firehouse that housed our ambulances at that point. And it was during COVID, and it just didn't seem like the best option to have our residents going in there with all of the stuff going on with COVID. So we did move it to Ward 3 temporary, and it ended up working out really great. So, I guess you just have to, it has to be a trial period and to see if it works, and what works in one ward might not certainly work in another ward, so.
Thank you, Brenna. I was just wondering, how do you gauge or assess success with something like this?
So when we have a polling location, we have to follow some guidelines, but all of the locations that we're proposing to put, the double precincts in follow all those guidelines anyways. They have to be handicap accessible, they have to have parking that's accessible. I guess really the only way to see if it's going to work is to do it, because, and to hear feedback. I guess we could also call a public hearing, but I don't know if I see a lot of people coming out to speak in favor or not in favor of something like that. And if we're going to try to vote on this, before the summer recess, I don't know if that's asking too much of a vote in just a few weeks. But yeah, I guess it's kind of hard to say, because
Well,
I said, you don't know.
After the last merging, which I don't know when that was, I don't know how long ago that was. But
It was right around 2020.
oh, so 5 years ago?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there an increase, decrease in the number of people voting? Was it?
No, I think
was
it was
there any
all, it was
noticeable
all
change?
it was pretty equal. But Ward 3 is a hard one to say too, because the firehouse is literally I don't know, maybe a quarter of a mile around the corner from Medcalf, so it wasn't really, and they did have a lot of voters that came from Elmwood Towers. Is that Elmwood Towers right across the street? Yeah, right?
Yes.
No, that's not, yeah, Elmwood Towers
Yes,
across the
Elmwood
street.
Towers, yep.
And we really didn't hear a lot of complaints. I think the biggest complaints we heard would have been complaints that would have happened regardless. I know that Medcalf has done some reconstructing of their front entrance. So we received complaints on that. Then they tried to move the voters to go in through the back door, so we received some complaints on that, but we didn't really receive any major complaints on moving the location. We sent every resident in the precinct like a postcard, and it was done in English and Spanish, saying that this was going to be your new location. I think at that point we did it temporary location, and we ended up sending a second notice because we kept it that way. But yeah, we really didn't get a lot of pushback.
Well, that's good.
Can you ask her about the word for change?
Oh, yeah. I was curious about the reason for the Ward 4 change. And how that
So
was requested.
Connor approached me on that soon after he became the CEO of the YMCA. And he just said that he was really interested in, doing some things partnering with the city, and that was one of the ideas he had. We did do a voter registration drive there. I don't have like very strong feelings one way or the other. I just think, it's a newer facility. There's, several entrances, there's handicap entrances, and there's a parking lot. It's a lot of stuff that we don't have in Ward 4. Residents sometimes have to park across the street and then cross the busy road on Appleton Street. And then I know that they also wanted us to try to use only the back door at one point. That might have been during COVID as well. But there's only stairs in the back, so we said that we, like, by law, cannot just have people coming in upstairs. That's not, handicap accessible. And so they gave us a little bit of pushback on that. We also have to pay to rent St. Paul's, where it sounds like the YMCA wouldn't charge us, and they don't charge us anything significant. I think it's like $150, but it's still something, and we always have to rely on someone with a key to let us in the day of to set up, and same with the day after. They've asked us during COVID to come in and clean because they didn't feel comfortable having their custodians do it. So just little things like that have been just a little bit, extra work than some of the other polling locations in the schools.
Thank you, Brenna. Yeah, the Ward 4 change sounds to me like you might actually get more people to vote because everybody knows where the Y is and a lot of people
Right.
use it. So that could be interesting change, especially if it's accessible. Councilor Ocasio.
My concern for Ward 2 is, like Juan said, right now, the way it's set up, we barely get that much voters out there, and it's nearby. And
Sure.
my concern is if you push it somewhere else, the ones there was already coming to Morgan School, which is nearby, won't go to the next one because they'll be further up. So that's,
Right. No,
that's a concern.
No, I was going to say, I completely understand, and I know that, some residents that vote in that ward also live in Rosary Tower, so all they have to do is take the elevator or the stairs right down into their common area, and they're able to vote right there. So I completely understand, those concerns, and like I said, what might work for one ward might not work for another ward, so obviously I would definitely want to take, consideration to the ward counselors if we're to do this change.
Councilor Anderson Burgos.
I think a thought, and obviously everybody can weigh in, a thought would be if you're going to change it to one location, I would keep it at the location where there's a lower turnout and hopefully expect that the higher location where there's a higher turnout, that they would actually go to the lower. So encouraging more people, like they're seeing more vehicles, so it causes attention for people to actually vote. That's just a thought.
My concern with that, with, certain locations is I don't think that Rosary Towers can handle not that they can't handle it, I don't think the size of it is big enough for 2 precincts. And that's why I was proposing that one to be also moved to City Hall. But I do understand where you're coming from as well.
Councilor Jordan.
I was going to say 1A and 1B are pretty close. 2A is bigger than 2B. So,
Yeah, I'm just looking at 2A, 2B. So it's only like a little under a mile. It's like a 0.7 miles, like a 15-minute walk, but it's all downhill or uphill too. So if people are if they're walking, that could be a lot. If someone has accessibility issues.
Carmen, do you have if I could ask you,
Sure.
do you have a preference between between Falsetti Towers and South Holyoke in the school to Morgan?
Well, either people from Ward 2 to go up the hill, and like handicapped people with wheelchairs and stuff like that is going to be an issue. You know, and like other people that, you know, from up the hill to come down, and they also got, you know, wheelchairs and stuff. So it'd be an issue. I mean, but I know we have a small turnout, and it's right there, and, you know, I encourage people to vote.
Right.
So,
Right.
but if you push it somewhere
Can I just say something to that really quickly as well? Just, you know, from my past experience with this mail-in voting, which has become a very popular option, especially with the senior citizens, I've noticed that Morgan School has quite a bit of residents that vote through the mail. You know, obviously they do have some people that go in there, but I would say Morgan School is one of our slowest in-person voting, not necessarily smallest voter turnout, but smallest right now that actually go in to vote, because so many people go through the mail, because there's the nursing home that has a really big voter turnout.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And obviously, Brenna,
It's just something to keep in mind.
and Brenna, the plan is that we're gonna continue to have mail-in voting for all the city elections too, not just the state and presidential, correct? Is that?
Correct. The only way that a city or town can opt out of mail-in voting now is you have to have a public hearing, and the city council or select board has to vote on it. And I'm not in favor of that. I think that it's a great option for residents, especially the senior citizens. You know, weather, all of that, you know, people don't want to go out and vote when it's pouring or snowing. And so if they got their vote in earlier, I think people are really enjoying having that option. It definitely adds like quite a bit of workload to the office, but I think now we've kind of gotten a good handle on it. And yeah, I plan on still doing it. I wasn't planning on asking the city council to opt out in any way.
Good, yeah, and I agree with you, yeah, thank you. So, we obviously, the Ward 4 proposal would have to come in as a separate item, because all we have tonight is 1, 2, and 5.
Correct, yes.
Is your plan that you're still studying the Ward 4 option, and plan on either asking Counselor Givner or somebody to file something you're getting close on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few conversations with Connor about it. Counselor Givner and I have spoken about it. I mean, if she's comfortable filing the order, I would be happy to reach out to Connor again, or if she wanted to reach out to Connor again, I'm happy with that. But he seemed really, you know, really in favor of it, and I think that, and I did send him the letter that I drafted to the committee tonight as well, just so he knew that that it's now on the table.
Any other questions for Brenna or about this? Comments? Funny looks?
And actually, just for one other, I think I already know the answer, but I'll ask anyways. Brenna, you would send a letter to anybody in an affected precinct that they would be notified of the new location, and then, like you stated, we can see how it goes. And this doesn't have to be, you know, see how the city election goes. Maybe we do next year's, I think next year's a state election, you know, we could try that and then see where it is. And then you could revisit it and we can, you know, adjust from there, right? You know?
Right, exactly, yep. Yeah, the way we handled it with Ward 3, and I had reached out to some other clerks just to see, you know, who has done something similar and how they notified everybody. And it seemed the popular option was to do the postcards opposed to doing a letter, just because it's like half the cost postage-wise.
Okay.
And we were able to, it's just pretty much a very basic postcard that says your polling location has changed from this location to this location. This is effective starting now, and we would actually list the 2 election dates on there. Sorry, the kids are downstairs. We would list the 2 elections on there, and then we would also put it in Spanish. We would have it interpreted into Spanish for all the postcards as well.
Councilor Bacon?
Thank you. So would We also say that this is temporary, like we did in the other wards at the beginning.
We could, if that was the will of the body, I could certainly put that it was temporary. The only thing with that is that if we put temporary, then even if it works out great, we have to send a whole nother mailing to let them know it's now
Okay.
permanent. But I'm fine doing that. But if we put temporary, we would have to send a second notice, or we could put something along the lines of that this is your new voting location going forward unless you hear otherwise, something like that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, it's up to the committee, but they decide. But, and then my other question was, on that same postcard, could we also remind people that they will be able to do mail-in voting? Because I think that will like diminish the angst like right away.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
for
unless
sure.
they're just opposed to it, and then they'll go in person if it's important to them.
Right. Yeah, no, we could put that at the bottom and even put like a link for them to link to the mail-in application.
Oh, okay. So that would be good. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then I guess I would ask, considering that we're looking for June 17th vote on this, I mean,
Just quickly, the more I thought about it, the meeting in the beginning of August would probably be fine too, because the preliminary is not until more towards the end of September. And that's even if we have a preliminary. So I feel like if the council wanted to wait until August to vote on this for whatever reason, that's plenty of time as well.
I mean, this part we could definitely vote on. I'm fine with that. I'm just saying, since 4 isn't included in this order.
Yeah.
But it's included in your memo. I know there was some back and forth conversation. So if we could get that in around the same time so that all the polling locations change at the same time, I think it would be good. So,
Yeah, and then we could do a press release on it as well, just saying that
yeah.
several.
So we could get this one
City.
hopefully approved, and then I can put in a new order for 4 separate, and then it would still catch up with the others to be on time for the fall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Sounds great. Any other questions while we have Brenna? I'm sure she wants to hang out with us all night.
Yeah, right.
Thanks, Brenna.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
All right.
Brenna.
Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
So, motion.
Well, I would say to approve, right?
Approve it.
Approve and
Motion, send it to the city council for
So-
full final vote. Second.
So the motion is to approve item 5 and send to city council for approval.
Yep, final vote.
Final vote, yeah. All in favor?
Aye. Motion to take up item number 6. Off the
All
table.
in favor?
Aye.
Item number 6 from Adam Mulcahy and Christina Jesk, notification of intent to sell under MGL. So we do have Kestrel Land Trust on Zoom. We have Yoni from Conservation on Zoom to talk about this. And basically, and you should have gotten some attachments about this as well with your packet. Yeah, basically they're gonna explain what's going on and we'll move forward. However,
can
hi
I ask one
Yoni.
technical question?
Sure.
Was that the whole order, or did it get cut off on the agenda?
Oh, maybe it got cut off of my agenda. Here, let me read the printouts.
I'm just wondering if we
It did look
posted
very
them.
short, yeah.
I was gonna say,
Sometimes when I'm typing, I
hopefully the
erase stuff by
posting
accident.
was okay, especially if it's a land transfer or
No, that-
something. I don't want a technicality to trip us up.
No, that was
it
the
didn't get
whole-
Posted right.
That was the whole order.
Oh, that is? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's all that was printed here anyway. Thanks, welcome Yoni. And Bridget from Kestrel, hi.
So, yeah, we all got the same letter. This went to City Council, Conservation Commission, and Planning Board. This was a notice of intent to sell a part of a parcel that was recently subdivided that was enrolled in the Chapter 61. This is the Massachusetts version of a limited use program. There's a tax break that reassesses the value if you are committed to keep it in a relatively non-developed state, and it can be agriculture, forestry, or open space. And under Chapter 61, one of the things that gets triggered when there's a notice of intent, when there is a stated intent to change the use or transfer the property under the new use, is the municipality has a right of first refusal to match the bona fide offer for the property. So that's what's happened in this case. It's 10.448 acres on Mountain Road. And city can choose to waive its right of first refusal, can match the price and purchase the property. They can also choose to transfer the right of first refusal to a eligible land conservation organization like a state agency or a land trust. So as part of the commission's review, who took this up on May 22nd, we did some due diligence reaching out to such organizations to see if there was even interest in the property, and that was an option under the assumption that the city would not have the resources or the intention to make the purchase ourselves. Kestrel Land Trust agreed to attend the meeting, and if the right of first refusal were transferred to them, they would be interested in purchasing the property. They came to the May 22nd meeting and they discussed that with the commission, citing high conservation values. There's part of the East Mountain Range there, and an important section of Broad Brook that runs through the rear of the parcel. And we talked about some different arrangements that would still provide revenue to the city. We know our mayor has a big push to enforce a pilot policy, so we get some revenue from organizations that typically don't pay property taxes. Kestrel's stated intent is to transfer the property, act as a placeholder, and they would sell it to a conservation buyer, so we'd still get property tax. They've also entertained paying a pilot themselves for the duration they own the property. So there's a few different ways it could look if the city decided to transfer the rights. But I'm here to help answer questions on behalf of the Conservation Commission, who voted to recommend the transfer of right of first refusal to Kestrel. And there's also a letter from the planning board who also took up this item and recommended the same. So that's the basics. But yeah, there's some nuanced different ways it could look after the transfer took place if the city so chose, the mayor and city council.
Thank you, Yoni. Questions? Councilor Bacon.
Can you help us all to understand where this property is?
Yes, this is on Mountain Road, east side of Mountain Road, not too far south from the intersection with Southampton Road. There's a map that was actually provided in the notice of intent that showed that pretty clearly on page 5. What they're calling Lot 4 revised. I think it was previously subdivided as a 2-acre lot and then was reconfigured under the more recent NR. So the 10.44 acres abuts Mountain Road and then.
So is it in Ward 7?
Yeah, it's the Ward 7 part of Mountain Road.
It's the far end.
Yeah.
Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, is there anybody here representing the other potential buyer? Oh, right? Or Joni, do you know who Jose Ramos? Is he a developer? What is his intention for the property?
We don't know. I've never met him. Given that the zone is RA, the likeliest use is a single-family home. Most other types of buildings are restricted there. But I don't know.
All right, well, I'm looking at the letter from the planning board, right? And there's a couple of problems I have. Number one, they say that they haven't been advised that the parcel, if developed for housing, is unlikely to allow for more than one single-family home. Who advised that? Where did that determination come from that 10 acres would only support one single-family home?
I mean, it's my understanding that the property itself is on conservation land where only the frontage could be used for a single-family home because of the zoning.
Yeah, it grades into wetlands pretty quickly as you head east. But I don't know the details of the letter. I wasn't at that meeting.
I don't follow some of the stuff. If it was somewhere in here, if it was such an asset as a historical piece of our agricultural history and it's nothing but a swamp, that doesn't make any sense to me either. And the comparison here I want to make is even if it was one home, I've brought this up before, we've had people in Holyoke build $1 million houses, right? A $1 million house out there. Some of the other things it mentions in here about problems with city utilities and city infrastructure wouldn't be needed, wouldn't even apply. So it's irrelevant. And something like that would generate tax-wise, $18,000 to $20,000. Right? Now we know what happens with this pilot program with Kestrel. If it's one of the pilot programs that have been described to us before, it'd be for 25% or 50% of whatever this parcel is generating right now, which as just vacant land is just about nothing. So myself, before we go ahead and turn over our right, our option, our first right of refusal to someone else, I'd want to know definitively how much that pilot is going to be for, and what restriction would be taken if Kestrel transferred it to another conservation group. We already know that if it went to the Commonwealth of Mass, exactly what we would get, because we've heard about that recently. But we know right now that almost any lands that are held by other conservation groups, be it Kestrel, be it trustees of reservations, pay absolutely nothing. So if we're going to give away any opportunity here, I think we really need to know what it is that we're giving up, or what the real deal is going to be going forward.
Thank you, Councilor Sullivan.
Yep.
Do we have any other questions? Councilor Bacon?
Thank you. So I guess my question is more general in nature. If it is a buildable lot, and we're saying we have hardly any buildable property in the city, and we need more residential properties, and we've tied up a lot of our land with Kestrel and for good reason, and in consideration of certain conservation needs and wildlife needs. But in this situation, if I'm in my mind looking at the area right, it's already residential down one side, and there's a farm on the left, so I'm thinking the property's somewhere on that side. Why wouldn't we want to entertain somebody else being able to build a home, to have more people living here? What I'm seeing in our stats is that we're losing population in the city. So I guess I just wonder sort of theoretically why we would want to tie up 10 more acres of land when we're land poor and we need more places for people to live. So I would encourage us to think about this a little bit more perhaps and get a little more information. It seems like we don't maybe have it all, but thank you.
Councilor Jordan?
I wanted to find out, what's our deadline to make up our decision to exercise our option?
I believe it's 90 days. Is that correct, Yoni?
Actually, 120 days from the date of the letter.
What was the date of the letter?
April 28th.
8/26? Okay, so we have till then. Is it possible for us to get a side-by-side comparison of the art, like, so for the counselors to make an informed decision, if we had option A, city acquisition, option B, sort of city acquisition, but with us selling it for residential development, or maybe an option C, which is to sell it to a developer. We give our option to a developer, they pay the city, right? We would actually make money on the sale of our option, and then they would make it into residential. And then we would have the Kestrel Land Trust option, and then the pretty much, I guess, sell it to anybody else type option, like a Kestrel. And then we can see sort of like the taxes, like what is it paying today? I'm assuming this is completely vacant. There's no buildings whatsoever on it today. So like, what are we getting in taxes today? What would we get for taxes under these other scenarios? And then we have like a grid, and then you got option A, B, C, D, and then the council can say what's in the best interests of the city. I think that's what I think I would like, certainly, speaking for myself, so I can make the best decision, because I think the point is, if it is usable land for residential, I mean, maybe the answer is we give, maybe it's a partial answer, right? Maybe we subdivide the property. If truly 10 acres is there and 8 of it is unusable, for example, why can't we orchestrate with another developer who buys our option to subdivide the back 8, maybe that's environmentally sensitive, and then have the front be 2 1-acre parcels, theoretically, and you put 2 houses there, maybe, if that's the way it is. But I think that's the type of information we're going to need. Otherwise, we're not doing really our due diligence here,
And if I may.
I
Councilor
have a
Reagan?
partial
Sorry.
It's similar to what we did on Mountain Road with the old shooting range that could only be rehabbed to a point, and then the front lots got put out for sale. So it's a similar concept.
Yoni?
Yeah, I had a partial answer to that. First, it's my understanding that under Chapter 61, the city can only transfer the right of first refusal to a land conservation org. It can't be just any developer. But that's also what you're describing is a possible scenario we had discussed, where the backland is protected and the front 2 acres are put to some other use. But that would have to be after the city either exercising its right to purchase or transferring to a land trust like Kestrel. But that's, when I said earlier, there's a few different scenarios of how it could look. That's one of the options that we had discussed, and that Bridget might also be able to speak to.
All right. So yeah, if maybe if it's Bridget or whoever through the chair, to the follow-up would be, I think you get the point, Yoni, is we're trying to protect as much usable residential land as we can to get homes and homeowners and taxes and more population and all those good things. Since this is particularly a beautiful section of the city, these will command significant money. And number 2, but for all the other land, if it's the vast majority of it, let's protect it. Let's put that restriction on, and I think we could maybe have our cake and eat it too here. So interested to see what is told here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Jordan. So I guess, sorry, Councilor Devine?
Yeah, just reading these paragraphs, I think we need a lawyer, quite frankly, because it talks about 3 different types of forestry land, agriculture, open space, and recreation. The property that the proponent would like to sell was enrolled in Chapter 61A. Rather than being assessed its development value. The land enrolled 61A is assessed for its agricultural use, and there's more. It's just very confusing to me. And I had said 120 days, now I'm reading something else for 90 days. So,
What was the purchase price, by the way, if we did buy it?
Oh, I can,
215.
How much?
215.
215, thank you.
Yoni?
so city has 120 days to announce its intent to either buy the land, waive the right, or transfer it. And then from that point, it's 90 days.
From
If
the
there's an
time the
intent to
decision's made?
purchase. From that point, it's another 90 days.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
And those are just the 3 types of Chapter 61 eligible programs. So even though this,
So since it's Chapter 61A that falls under conservation, is that a designated given to the land by like the state? Or is that something that can come and go, or is that just the designation that we just have to deal with?
yes, it means it's enrolled in the state program, but it's being taken, the intent is to take it out of the program, which is the right of the landowner. So it's not permanently attached, but it's triggered this review by the city.
Got you. Counselor Devine, did you have a question for Attorney Bissonnette?
I don't know if you have this paperwork in front of you, Attorney Bissonnette, but it's just confusing to me. I want to make sure we're going to do the right thing. So I don't have a specific question other than I'm very confused with the first 3 paragraphs.
Well, it's not a topic that comes up too often, Counselor. This is pretty rare territory, so it's not surprising that most are unfamiliar with it. Its original intent was to take land that otherwise was going to be developed or could be developed for commercial enterprises and keep it in agricultural hands or preservation hands by encouraging the owners to seek a tax exemption, classifying it as Aggie land rather than pay the full development tax costs. So in this instance, you have someone that brought it into 61A, now has been granted that exemption, had it for, I think, only 2 years, and is now seeking to, again, sell it for development purposes. I am not aware that the new owner wants to continue the 61A development, so hence the letter triggering the 121 days, and that's really decision time. So you've got really now a little less than 3 months left to decide whether or not city wants to execute or pass along the option to Castell or some other agency that wants to take ownership. Again, we have to match the price. It's a full valid purchase and sale. So there would be a cost. Of course, if another entity picked up the cost, then the city is just a pass-through of the right for the first option. Can't sell that off to a developer, though. So as Yoni mentioned, maybe if it's 8 acres that cannot be developed, that goes for preservation. 8 then would, if that full 2 acres left could be zoned residential, and conservation would certainly need to sign off on that. But that may be a way to manage this problem. But again, you have 90 days left to be able to go ahead and execute. Go ahead and choose an option, and then another 3 months to execute on that option. So that gives you 6 months total. And I'd be mindful of, as I know you are, the summer schedule of the council to make sure we do this in a timely fashion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Yoni, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I was trying out the raise hand function. Just thought of something I wanted to mention from the letter that the commission wrote that I just wanted to pass along. That was the other The other matter discussed in the meeting was just concerns that we've heard over the years from residents on Mountain Road about continued development of agricultural lands in the landscape of Rock Valley. The city has to balance competing needs to raise revenue and produce housing, but we did talk about the fact that every time there's a new house or development that the commission reviews, there's a strong presence. The residents, the neighbors show up. They're worried about the capacity of their walls, the addition of another septic system and traffic on the road. So I don't know that that changes anyone's decision or minds, but I thought it was worth bringing up because, yeah, we hear it often. And I don't think residents were notified. There was no abutter notification through this process, but haven't heard this time, but we have in the past.
So they're all using wells and septic systems because there's no city services there. Okay. And I'm understanding that most of the 10-acre lot is not buildable. But I also realized that the seller put this plot up as one plot for sale. And so now I don't know if it's possible for us to go back and ask them to split it in two, because I mean, it sounds like ideally we'd like to see a street side option that could be developed if somebody wanted to buy it and put a house on it, but also realizing that there's no developable land behind it really, and that there's conservation issues with developing back there. But I'm not sure where we stand as what to do with this, because it sounds to me relatively straightforward. I mean, we have this property, we can, waive the right of refusal. We can choose to purchase it for $215,000, or we can move to transfer our right of refusal to a land conservation organization. So I don't see where this other option comes in unless we don't transfer the right of refusal. So I guess I'm curious as to what more we'd like to see to be able to move this anywhere in any direction.
Could we hear from Bridget from Kestrel?
Sure.
'Cause
Bridget.
she might have some, if we did transfer it to them, then what?
Yeah, Bridget, what are the intentions? Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Kestrel has received our board's approval to accept the right of first refusal and purchase the land at the bona fide offer of $215,000. And as Yoni said, our intent would not to be hold the land long term, but we could enter the pilot agreement. We'd be open to that in the interim. But we have identified in our communication within a private conservation buyer. So our intent would be to sell privately to that conservation buyer, so it's staying in private ownership with that sale. And then our intent is to explore that scenario that you've all been describing of keeping that front acreage, about that 2 acres open, with that conservation buyer holding it. And then the back acreage would either be put under conservation restriction and kept in private ownership, or we would perhaps subdivide and sell to another conservation entity like the state. But we are cognizant of this need for tax revenue within city, and so we feel like this is a path worth exploring, compromising. Kestrel is willing to put up the funds and be that intermediary so that the city doesn't have to expend its own funding for this. But hopefully it's meeting a lot of needs through this conservation plan.
Thanks, Bridget. Councilor Jordan.
Yeah, Madam Chair, to Bridget, Kevin Jourdain, very nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us, Bridget. Really appreciate your expertise on this. So you are suggesting, if I'm hearing carefully, that we could do potentially, once we transfer, say we exercised our right, gave it to Kestrel, you purchase it for the $215,000. Is there a scenario where we could proverbially have our cake and eat it too here, where the front acreage, say that 2 acres, how much that could be reasonably divided up into maybe 1, 2, 3, whatever theoretical parcels for residential, and then have, say, that back 8 be conservation restriction, protected forever type of scenario? Because then that seems like everybody comes out a winner in that situation. Just interested in your thoughts and if Kestrel could help us facilitate something like that.
Sure thing. So yeah, so with the Chapter 61 provisions, at least 70% must stay in open space use, and so that's where that acres comes in. But that 2-acre minimum could be developed into another use. That would be Kestrel working directly with the conservation buyer with that sale. So what the conservation buyer did with that front acreage once it was sold to them would be under their purview, and Kestrel wouldn't really be able to dictate it beyond that. But our intent would be to leave it open for them to make those decisions.
So that's problematic to me because that's way too. So can we put a condition in our transfer to Kestrel, and would Kestrel accept that the 2 acres in the front would be preserved for residential, so that when it was sold to the new conservation buyer, that 2 acres is going to be for residential for the city? And could we do that? And is Kestrel open to doing that?
Kestrel's open to that concept. Whether that's allowable under Chapter 61 transfer, that seems like an attorney legal question. I would be unable to answer for certain.
All right. I think we need to research that then. And
Attorney Bissonnette, did you hear that question?
Oh, sorry. Mic was off. Yes, I did. And I think that's a great question. There's a small library of cases that have been decided about landowner rights after 61A and after municipalities elect to pursue the option. So we can take a look at those if it's in the interest of the council to go forward seeking an alternative resolution, and what role Kestrel may play in that, I think is worth pursuing.
Thank you. Councilor Bacon?
And my last question is, what happens if we do not exercise our first right of refusal?
Sale goes through.
Yeah.
To the guy that wants to build a house?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if that's his intent, that would be his right.
Councilor Devine?
I'm more confused now than ever, 'cause I just read the planning board's recommendation. I think it's planning. Yeah, Holyoke Planning Board. You might want to read it, because it's just way out there. I don't know what we should do.
Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, when you say, whoops, where'd the Kestrel person go?
Oh, she's still here.
Oh, okay. Bridget, you keep mentioning selling to other conservation buyers. Who are these potential buyers?
So this is a private individual who's approached us and expressed interest in purchasing the land from us for conservation purposes. So this isn't a conservation organization, nonprofit, et cetera. This is a private individual.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? So what kind of information are we looking for, I guess, the next meeting? Because it sounds like this discussion's not going to end today. Councilor Jordan?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I would think where Mike Bissonnette, if he could really help us to say, can we exercise our right of first refusal, transfer it to Kestrel, such that we could put in a restriction that allows the protection of that 2 acres to be used for future residential, so that the new private conservation buyer can't say, oh, it's just going to be nothing, right? And meanwhile, the 8 in the back would be protected. I think everybody comes out a winner in that scenario. So, and then this becomes a really easy vote if we do that. Otherwise, we're weighing now the option of do nothing, and then this just all goes to private development.
Right.
Or B, or I suppose there's a hypothetical C, which is we don't put any restrictions on, mindful that Kestrel's going to take it and give it to this private, and they might make it all nothing. And now the city, like the private development option, probably gets us the most taxes, the most residential, the do nothing option. The option B, which is to Kestrel with giving the 8 and just making sure the front 2 stays residential, to me is a nice balance of environment and development. And then option 3 seems like we end up with no taxes, no residents, no residential guarantee at all.
Yeah.
So that's a risky option too. So I think we need Mike to kind of let us know, I think this option B, is that a doable, and can Kestrel and the law department work that in a way that that's legally compliant, that we can put the restriction but still keep a portion for private, and that Kestrel will know who their private buyer is, and would they play ball with giving
That stipulation.
residential in the
Yeah.
in the front and the conservation?
Because yeah, I mean, I hear that completely. Because when I saw this, I thought, well, why didn't the owner just sell the front plot separately from the back plot?
Right.
You know, but I mean, you know, hindsight's 20/20. So I can imagine that if he was considering selling, he probably didn't consider all that.
Exactly.
Another thing to keep in mind is this is agricultural use, so it's not like you can suddenly put up a building or something. It's wetlands. It's, you know, it's not really buildable. It's got basically one lot on the front for single residential, you know, housing. So, yeah, I just wanted to mention that. Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, I like the idea of separating it, having some kind of restriction there. The thing that really strikes me is how close the back of the property comes to the New England Trail. We certainly, that's a real jewel, that New England Trail. A group of us Hoyokers hiked it from Connecticut to New Hampshire 2 summers ago. And we really need to actually put some kind of decent access, parking access somewhere in the city for that. But you certainly wouldn't want to have houses and backyards right there butted up against the trail. So I like that option. The other thing I'd like to say, I'd really like to know what the pilot is going to be and how that is going to be transferred to any future buyer, what those conditions would be, so that we're not, once again, selling ourselves short for the taxpayers.
All right. Thank you, Councilor Sullivan. So, Attorney Bissonnette, is this something we can work on for, I guess, a next discussion that would split these up, or is that within our purview at all?
Well, thank you. My curiosity, based on the splitting up of the parcel that's under the right of first refusal, leads me to ask the question, after this discussion, has there been a decision about a municipality being able to exercise its right of first refusal on only a portion of the property under contract? So I think that's where we initially would start our research, and we would look to see whether or not immediately the city could just say, we're going to exercise it on the 8th, and we're going to pass that along to Kestrel. The 2 then can remain under the agreement. Now, usually the pro tanto on this is the full amount of the agreement. So if all 10 were to go to the city or to Kestrel, the full $250 would have to be paid. But how this would work financially, I don't know, but I'm certainly willing to take a look at exploring whatever options are available and bringing that back and explaining it to the council.
Thank you, Attorney Bissonnette. Any other questions? Councilor Devine?
Attorney Bissonnette, I don't know if you've had a chance to read the planning board's page and a half recommendation.
I haven't seen that, Councilor Devine.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but definitely get a copy of this and advise us, because to me, it's very, very confusing from the planning board. And I just want us to do the right thing. Thanks.
Yeah, happy to take a look at that.
Thank you, Councilor Devine.
Could I make one suggestion also to Mike?
Counselor Jordan?
Yeah, and Mike, one thought too is, even if we exercise the right on the whole parcel, are we allowed to put a restriction on what the next conveyor down the line is going to do with it, so as to say, like, the legal compliance is 70% has to be used, or 75% has to be used as a conservation restriction. So could we say that could we designate on it to Kestrel, like, this too will not, if they sell it, they have to put a restriction that will remain available for residential. So, like, either scenario, if you could take a peek at that.
The question is, does it run or can it run with the land?
Yeah,
Not just the owner?
like as we transfer it, can we put a restriction on the transfer? Obviously, we're negotiating this with Kestrel, because we're aligned with Kestrel as the facilitator of this. But if they would consent to that, I think that gets us everywhere we want to be on this, potentially.
I'll take a look at that, as well as future sales after a pass-through to a private. I'd need to know a little bit more about that, Bridget, how that would be structured tax-wise and what that would mean. Because the last thing we want is somebody else coming up and accusing us of trying to sidestep some requirement of the law. But okay, that sounds like a law school question, law school exam question, Kevin. So
Exactly,
I'll be happy to take a look at it.
Thank you, Counselor Bissonnette. Yeah. I guess I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to table until we have more information from Attorney Bissonnette,
Second.
and especially having him read the planning board's recommendation.
All right, so the motion is to table this. It sounds like we're waiting to receive additional information from Attorney Bissonnette that would allow the city to negotiate having a stipulation that the front developable residential acreage could be used for that in a transfer. Does that sound right?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could I suggest a date certain on that? So this one's on the timeline, and because of the summer schedule, I don't want to get lost in a couple other issues we have going. So if we could make plans to get to a decision, I think that would be probably the most prudent course right now.
It looks like our next DGR meeting isn't until August 4th.
We have to August 8th.
How about if we get the answer, the city council could remove it from committee on June 17th?
Okay, that sounds good to me. Do you think we can get that done before then, Attorney Bissonnette?
We might want to
I
agenda.
really couldn't estimate till I take a better look at it.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I really couldn't say until I get a better look at it, and see what might be involved, but I'll certainly have some preliminary report for the 17th.
All right. Yeah. Okay, so on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Yoni and Bridget. Appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Motion to take up item 7 off the table.
Motion is to take up item 7 from Assistant Solicitor Jane Manteleschi, letter regarding St. Vincent's lots. I think this is just to be received, unless there's a discussion around this. But there's no action to take as far as I understand.
Madam Chair?
Am I reading the wrong one? Jeffrey?
Yeah, this, and I'm gonna bring out something I printed. This was the one where there was a back and forth between planning and Counselor Bartley on trying to make a recommendation. And I'll bring out the printout to you so you can read it.
Okay. Well, Counselor Bartley is not actually here, and seems like this is his baby.
Did any communication come in from Councilor Bartley? No.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot of communications from Counselor Bartley about this, but
So,
John Dijak had instructions on what, if the committee wanted to proceed with making a motion, that those are the instructions on what would be done.
all right.
Anything would be determining one lot or three.
Gotcha. All right, so this is regarding the St. Vincent's lots. If people don't know where those are, they're at the corner of Route 5 and I can't read this because it's too dark.
Maybe St. Vincent Street?
Is that St. Vincent Street? So the communication from John Dijak is that we're addressing Jane's communication that was referred to DGR on March 5th council meeting, which included a letter from the heritage surveyors and is in the jacket. I did not find it in the jacket, which is how all of this started to begin with. It was summarized that in order to need forward, we need to clarify as a body to take a vote to explicitly state that the city council is in support of proceeding with a survey for the purposes of defining the legal boundaries of a new parcel or parcels, and advise as to whether the CC's preference is to add 1 or 3 additional parcels. This was apparently the OPED favors this becoming 1 parcel and to allow a future developer to divide it as they see fit. So that would save us from dealing with 3 separate parcels for sale. And there's some development issues on that corner. It's on a hill and there's like some water lines running through it. So if we designated it as 1 parcel, then we could allow the developer to deal with the developing. And then we wouldn't have to deal with it. So, yeah. That's the communication on that. And so it's my understanding that this has been a topic that was started by Terry Murphy, and they had discussed turning that corner into developable property. And so I guess that's the whole question. I don't know why it's been here so long, but I know Councilor Bartley is involved with this and had a lot to say about it. Councilor Bacon?
Is there any reason why we wouldn't want to develop it? I thought it was some kind of a land swap because the school didn't need it.
Yeah.
So we were going to take it so we could have another project. But I don't understand
As
if
a
it would
city?
be 1 or 3. No, for somebody. I mean, I'm not thinking for the city, for
Yeah, the
somebody
question
else.
the question is do we want to divide it into 1 or 3 parcels
Yeah.
to sell?
So I was just wondering why it has to be 1 or 3.
I don't
It just seemed kind of weird, but I know they were hoping.
Well, I guess maybe there's up to 3 parcels, so it's up to us to decide if we want to sell it as a block or sell it in 3 parcels and have to deal with selling the 3 parcels separately.
Oh.
Kind of like what we just talked about. Like,
Oh,
if they would have just had 2 parcels, we wouldn't have just had that whole discussion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
But whereas
Wouldn't we
this-
make more money if it's 3 though?
I don't think so.
Like we subdivide it, then we put the 3 out, and people can always buy more than 1, right? They can always merge it into one.
Yeah, are we in the retail, are we in the like land management? I mean, maybe by default we are, but
3 houses is 3 taxes versus 1 tax, you know, that's the
I
way.
agree.
But what did they say
Well, it's a
about
money issue.
infrastructure? They-
So there are some infrastructure, not issues, but there's a water line there, and there's things that a developer would have, you know, the people on staff to be able to deal with. So the city doesn't have, and it's my understanding that the city doesn't really have a team that would go out there and divide up the plots and be able to, you know, tell a developer like, oh, well, here's the water lines for all of this. Like the water line goes through it, and if a developer bought the whole thing, maybe they would put, I don't know, I think it's only zoned R1 over there, if I'm correct, if I read that right. So whoever bought it can either put 1 house on the whole plot or up to 3, I guess, is what the space would allow for according to planning.
I think as long as you have it surveyed and you do a deed and you earmark the 3, as long as they meet all the setback requirements.
Right.
I think you could do it. If the law department's determined it to be, and the building or whoever's advising them, that these are legitimate 3, they meet all the configurations of a legitimate lot, I think you would be wise to do the 3, and then people, if they really want all 3, they might just say, well, I'm gonna buy all 3, but I'm only gonna put 2 houses, because this one's, I need these 2 to do this, and maybe they say, I'm just gonna put a jumbo house and have that as 1. But I'm not really understanding the argument for 1. It's always, like when you're developing, more parcels is better, and you can always buy multiples, you know?
Yeah. I mean, so it was my understanding that it's easier for the city to sell 1 thing than 3 things.
It's
And it probably
eliminating a
costs us
step.
3 times more to sell 3 things. It eliminates 3 steps or 2 steps. But I would be curious as to the, you know, what is the cost difference in dealing with this?
Exactly.
You know, because I understand that, like, we could do 1 survey of 1 plot and, you know, sell this property, or we could do, you know, I guess surveys that break it up into 3. I don't know. Counselor Bacon?
I'm just a little puzzled because usually we don't get into that amount of detail
Yeah, I
on
don't know
the
what's
sale of a property. Like, how
It's
many?
not usually our decision.
Right.
Usually it's their decision.
So I don't,
it's
this is not actually an order that's even here. This is a communication. That's why I wanted to just receive the communication, but Jeffrey's saying that that we wanted to act on this according to Jane's letter from the law department, but I still don't see the order associated with it, so I'm a little confused.
That's
too.
the only thing we can vote on is the sale or the non-sale.
Right, we can't vote on 1 or 2 or 3.
Have we declared it surplus?
Yes, that's my understanding. Jeffrey, can you confirm this has been declared surplus?
Is to sell
Once it
So
comes in.
my sense from the thread was that it still needs to be declared surplus, and Councilor Bartley has been pushing for them to do so, and that the communication, they were asking the communication to be put on the agenda as a tool for making a motion asking them to take that step.
Oh, to declare it surplus?
So we're caught in front of the
So,
whole school committee.
so it
voted
sounds
to
like
declare it
we need an order from
Somebody.
someone to declare this surplus, and then we can worry about selling it.
Sounds it.
Yeah, I was really confused about this. I had a lot of emails about this. What would we like to do? Should we receive this communication and then allow whoever needs to put in an order, or should we table it and allow Counselor Bartley to talk on it when he has time?
I would just refer it to the mayor, right? And have him, if he wants it to be declared surplus, he's gonna have whoever come into us and give a, I would say refer it to the mayor, right? Because isn't it gonna be his call to decide if he wants it to be declared surplus and ask for our permission?
I guess. I'm not really sure.
I would think so.
Thank you, Attorney Bissonette. All right, well, I'll entertain the motion.
Be received and sent to the mayor.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That was so weird. Okay. Oh, it's gonna. 8, anyone?
Motion to take up item number 8 off the table.
Second? Yes,
Second.
second. All in favor? Aye. Item number 8.
Make a motion
In order,
make a motion to declare it surplus property.
in order to declare parcel Holyoke Assessor's Map 010, Block 01, Parcel 2, Cabot Street, Holyoke, as a surplus property, city has been approached by a butter looking to purchase the property to secure the same, make it more visually appealing. The property is vacant and land and currently assessed at 13.5. And after having conversations about this property, I got an email from the law department that said we should give this a leave to withdraw because it's already been declared surplus.
Okay, so.
Motion's made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next
Makes
one.
it easy.
Same with item 9.
Okay,
Motion to take up item 9 off the table. Oh my God.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So item 9, same story. In order to declare parcel Holyoke Assessor's Map 144 Block 00057 East Hampton Road. The city has been approached by an abutter looking to purchase it and combine lots. Property is vacant, land and currently assessed at 8,500. Also, I got a notification that we should give this leave to withdraw because it's already been declared surplus.
Motion, leave to withdraw.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion to take up item number 10 off the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 10, order that the city council invite the DPW director of Chicopee to speak on their refuse pickup system that was developed several years ago and what the cost benefits are to the community. This has been in here for almost a year, and I think we can, I think we've already solved most of the problems that this order was filed because of, so, I would entertain a motion to give this one leave to withdraw.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to take up item number 11 off the table.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 11, order that water department reps come in to DGR to elaborate on processing fees attached to payment when using a credit debit card when processing payment. Constituents have raised concerns on how much they're being charged on top of their water bill. This has also been in here a while. I think it's a interesting order though, so I'm pretty sure that we wanted, that Councilor Rivera was okay with removing item 10. I'm not sure about 11. Councilor Attorney Bissonnette?
Just a quick insight on this because I've dealt with it before. Municipalities generally have to charge a handling fee, a processing fee, and a small amount because the cities and towns are charged a processing fee by whatever credit card you're using. So at this point, all the cities can do is charge that fee to the taxpayer or the ratepayer because it's against the law for the city to subsidize that cost. So they're not making any money off it. That's commonly thought to be the case, but it's certainly not. It's just passing along the costs. Unfortunately, the cost of doing business in the modern age that if you accept the credit card, you have to pay a service fee, and there's no exemption for municipalities. So I hope that clarifies it a little bit. Everybody hears it every time tax season comes around.
Are there additional fees outside of just the service fee?
No, not unless you're delinquent or late, and then you'll start getting late fees, interest assessments, and if it's excise bills, it'll go to an outside collector, and then eventually, if it's unpaid, it'll go to Registry of Motor Vehicles, which will cause problems with license renewals, registration renewals, etc.
Okay, so it's just the service process fees due to credit card use for payment. No?
That's correct.
Okay.
There you go.
Sorry,
Second.
Councilor Sullivan, did you have a question?
Nope.
Yeah. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Nope.
There's no.
Nope.
Wait, no,
Nope.
no, no,
There's
no.
more.
But wait, there's more. I wanted to take up item 12 to be complied with. I think we've finished all that in the recommendations, unless you, Counselor Sullivan, unless you wanted to keep that in the jacket for a future discussion. Item 12, sorry.
I'd defer to Counselor Bartley on that. I'd just leave it there.
Okay.
I'll before our next meeting, I'll talk to him and see if we want to keep that going.
Okay, and then, yeah, these other ones I had questions for Counselor Bartley too about withdrawing. And you had something, Counselor Sullivan?
Yeah, item number 26, which is just a communication regarding heavy commercial vehicle operation on Homestead Ave. This was from August of 24 from the city solicitor.
So motion to take that up and,
Just received.
Just received.
Second.
okay, motion to receive item 26. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 32 is from R. Levesque Associates. It's an agreement to waive a 65-day time frame from January, and
I think actually from November.
I think that's upside, and it's just to receive.
Yeah, I agree. So motion to take up item 32 and receive. All in favor?
And item number 35 is from Westfield City Councilor Deanna Lee. Lithium fire hoses, they've gone away. So,
Yeah, complied with, right? They pulled out.
Yeah.
yep.
Yep, so that was a victory.
Yep.
Complied with. So, motion for 35, I thought it was complied with, or was received.
Received,
Just a
yeah.
letter from Dan, right?
So, motion that item 35 is received. All in favor?
Aye. Do you have?
Now, you can.
No.
Oh, hold on one
There's a-
second. On 13,
wait, 30
Can I just ask on 13 real quick?
No. Counselor Jordan?
Well, only that, on that one there, I could probably just, maybe just call this one complied with.
13.
And I'll just talk to the mayor further on it, because what this basically is an idea I got from Terry Murphy, which was about, okay, his idea. He said, if I had been and I had an opportunity to be longer in mayor, his master plan was basically for vacant lots, that the city would provide initial seed money from the stabilization fund to like build, say, 3 houses. We build 3 houses. Then we sell those 3 houses and use that money and build 3 more houses and kind of keep it going until we develop all the lots.
Yeah.
Like, we make an initial investment and then we use the sale proceeds.
Holyoke flippers?
Basically, yeah. It's,
Yeah, we
it's
become
kind
the
of an
developer.
interesting concept, but
yeah.
it's, if we're trying to
works.
get, I know there's been a big desire to kind of get more housing in the city. And if we can't find a developer, maybe we
develop.
start, like, we get a partner that we pay the upfront, and then we just kind of start building these houses and get it going and build up the residential. So it's kind of an interesting concept, but I can just deal with that with the mayor directly.
Is that any different than what One Holyoke and the Housing Authority do?
Not really, but we're counting on them to say they want to do the buy-in and they have to front the money, and like, we're sort of starting it to get it going. It's really kind of like residential economic development, really, it's kind of that. But yeah, it would require some initial startup and resources from us, but boy, I think it could really be a catalyst potentially to build a lot more homes in the city. Potentially,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, something to think about.
Absolutely.
Let me know if you need a homie.
Yeah, okay, very good. Yeah, absolutely.
Because
yeah.
my head is there, yeah.
Yeah, so it's something to think. Again, Terry gave me the idea, so.
Counselor Devine?
Yeah, it is an intriguing idea, but what I would like to do is table it until our budget talks are over.
Okay.
Because if we're gonna be giving this to the mayor and saying, okay, we need you to buy this property, and this property.
Well, I think it's just, it's explore the idea. I don't think it's telling the mayor to do anything other than to think about it. So I'm fine, just, it doesn't have to be really in order if you want to clean out the jacket on it. I can just have these conversations privately with the mayor, and we just can kind of go that way with
Yeah.
it.
So we'll just withdraw or
Complied.
comply
You know,
with?
we
Yeah.
explored it, here at
Alright.
the council level.
So motion that item 13 be complied with?
We can always refile it.
Crickets.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, guys.
So item 31, I believe, Councilor Ocasio
Oh.
wanted to touch base on 31. So item 31, take it off the table.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item 31, order from Councilor Ocasio that the city change the use of the lot at the corner of Adam and South Summer from being a 24-hour parking to a residential parking from 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. Morgan School staff parking from 7 to 5 p.m. Councilor Ocasio.
The reason why I put this order in is because they're doing mechanic work in that corner, and that is public parking. And they leaving like cars there for weeks at a time until they fix it. So, and I've been taking pictures of the people that are doing it, and they're using it as a mechanic shop, actually. So, so it'll be beneficial if something like this happens, because the teachers can use the lot while school's going on, and then after 5 o'clock, it starts getting a little late. So that
It
will
starts to
not
die down.
Yeah. So like that, people that are trying to do mechanic work, they won't be able to do it.
So, thank you, Councilor Ocasio. So, is there signage that's a public lot? And
Yep.
is there signage that has these hours already there?
No, it's the sign that is there. It says it's a public parking, 24-hour parking only. And they use it all year round, and they're putting cars there. They're like using it like for mechanic, like leave the cars there for a few, exactly. So they've been doing this for a while now.
So we need enforcement.
And also enforcement, yeah.
Of the public parking, but more so by adding hours, you can enforce something. So
I had spoke to the mayor about this before, so he knows about it.
I think what we need is the code enforcer.
Yeah.
Conversation with the code enforcer.
Maybe have the DPW change the hours. Right
yeah,
on the signage.
It sounds like you need signage that designates parking at certain times, and maybe there is. I mean, so the residential parking would be overnight. What about people who are home during the day, or would people have to have a parking permit to park there? I don't know. Just putting it out there.
Probably have to have a permit in your car, sticker or something, if it's residential parking only
Yeah.
during those hours.
Huh.
They know who's who.
Yeah, it sounds like to clean up that lot, you might want to maybe more. If Morgan School uses it, they should probably have a Morgan parking placard. But then the city would have to enforce the parking in that lot. I think that's the biggest part is figuring out signage and the enforcement. But I'm not sure how you figure out the signage. Oh. Right, if you could decide on signage.
It's
The sign right now, the sign right now reads, it's a public park, only 24 hours parking.
Which is,
That's it.
which
And-
means you can leave all your cars there forever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so exactly that's exactly what they're doing. They're leaving all the cars there, and
Do you wanna-
usually for mechanic.
Do you want to table this and invite somebody from code enforcement to talk about it, or do you want to have a conversation with them and refile this with like exact signage that you want to see? Because I have a feeling that once you talk to them, they're going to give parameters of what we can and can't do as a city for hours, or what's popular for the parking signs for overnight, or yeah, I don't know.
It might say in the ordinance it's 24-hour parking too. We might have to change the hours. We're gonna have to do a little bit of research.
Do you want to table this and invite code enforcement to this meeting, or do you want to have a separate meeting with them? Yeah.
Invite 'em.
Okay. So motion to table item 31.
And
Sorry.
I think I found one more we might be able to.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay.
Item number 14. I think after what we went through tonight with Mountain Road and stuff, we got an order in here to declare a parcel surplus and sell. So I wouldn't mind having learned more about the process now. We may want to declare it at some point surplus, but to combine the surplus and sell is one. This was to sell property to the Mass Department of Fish and Game, right? And I think we had a lengthy discussion about this, and I'd like to either give it leave to withdraw or deny.
So move. Which one you pick?
Leave to withdraw.
Well, then,
Second.
I mean, the maker's not here, so are we comfortable
if-
with that?
Maker.
Well, and my thought on that is if the maker wants to refile as an order to declare surplus,
Yeah.
that might be an avenue to generate a real serious conversation about what the value of the property is. Now we know that the Commonwealth of Mass does pay a nominal fee anyways, more than some of the other conservation groups. But it'd be worth a further discussion at that point.
Yeah,
as
this was filed in
two separate
2023.
issues.
So, motion to give item 14 leave to withdraw.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We spend a lot of time waiting for motions around here.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Ah.
Thanks. Have a great night.